Hi, so I'm going to talk about Tania Bruguera's performance Destiera, or Displacement, from 1998. And I'm going to start by giving you some context for this, which was a group show at the Centro Wilfredo Lam in the center of Old Havana. And it was a group show called Obsesiones. Her contribution was a sculpture situated on one of the second floor galleries. A life-size figure made of burlap and sponge and caked with brown earth and mud. Sticks and nails had been tapped into its arms and legs, at the top of the head and around the mouth. After 2 hours, the sculpture started to move. It awakened and stirred. Hesitantly, it moved down the stairs of the Central Lam, flakes of mud falling off. It walked out onto San Ignacio, a narrow cobbled street outside. People gathered and followed as it proceeded towards the Plaza de la Catedral. There was a tension in the air since it was Fidel Castro's birthday, 13th of August. The police were on the alert for anything out of the ordinary. The sculpture stood on the plaza, clasping its hands and in front of the cafeterias filled with tourists. Surrounded by Cuban kids who kept their distance, but who also provided a protective circle, it walked up to the Malecon waterfront and eventually came to a halt in the Parque Luz Caballero. The short walk from the gallery to the park took about an hour. To anyone familiar with the ritual objects of the West African Kingdom of the Congo, the form of Bruguera's Destiero will be immediately familiar. It evokes an nkisi, in the plural minkisi, a fetish object that refers both to a specific force, understood as the spirit of a deceased person, as well as the material container through which that force is ritually channeled. The creation of an nkisi was a collaboration between a sculptor and a ritual specialist known as a nganga. These individuals served their communities as diviners, priests, therapists, and doctors, and used minkisi to ensure success and protection for their clients. Destiero alludes to a particular class of these objects called nkisi nkondi, wooden sculptures studded with nails, blades, and other metal elements over the course of their use. Each nail marks a desire or wish. While some minkisi date back to the 17th century, there was a notable efflorescence during the 19th, at the height of colonial exploitation. During this period, Minkisi Nkondi were conceived to bring wrongdoers to account, to meet punishment, seal alliances and contracts, mediate disputes, and assist regional leaders in maintaining public order. So how did Tania Bruguera know about Minkisi Nkondi? The Afro-Cuban religion known as Palomonte, or Las Reglas de Congo, draws on beliefs from West African peoples who were brought to Cuba for enslavement. Palo takes its name from the Spanish word for stick, in reference to the wooden sticks used in the preparation of altars or nganga, also known as nkisi. The Afro-Cuban nkisi takes the form of a metal container filled with sticks, bones, feathers, and nails. Both are inhabited by a spirit of the dead, ward off destruction, and call you to account. So while Bruguera was familiar with this class of Afro-Cuban nkisi, she was not brought up with Palo, but with Santeria, the syncretic religion that evolved in Cuba after it was conquered by the Spanish. Santeria fuses Roman Catholicism with aspects of West African Yoruba. Like many middle-class women, Bruguera's mother frequently sought the advice of Santeria priests. To this day, Bruguera has in her home a shrine to the guerreros, or the 4 warrior orishas. It's a metal bucket filled with wooden-handled blades and several paintbrushes. Although the Minkisi Nkondi that Bruguera alludes to in Destiero were not part of the iconography of Palo, they share the same West African origins, function, and name. Cubans knew it alluded to something religious and to something powerful. Bruguera could hear the conversation surrounding her as she walked through the street. People were attracted to the figure and even felt protected by it. She recalls a woman walking alongside her, picking up the nails as they fell out, repeating, "This has power, this has power." I think it's telling that Tania Bruguera didn't encounter the Congo Nkisi in West Africa, but in South Africa after being invited to participate in the Johannesburg Biennial. One day she was walking around the city and she came across a man in the street selling Minkisi to tourists. This was the first time she'd seen one in the flesh. The man explained that the Nkisi needed to be charged with the spirit of someone deceased via a bone or a piece of their clothing, and that you could ask the figure to do something for you, but you also had to promise to do something for it in exchange. Moreover, if you didn't keep your promise, then the Nkisi would wake up and chase you to find out why you hadn't. This last point, I think, was an immediate flash for Bruguera and gave her the idea for Destiero. Bruguera wanted to become the Nkisi who wakes up and comes chasing, holding the unanswered promise of the Cuban Revolution to account. On Fidel's birthday, the Nkisi would stir, asking Castro why the revolution remained unfulfilled. As is often the case in Bruguera's work, she finds a charged, often historical symbolic form and re-semiotizes it to address a contemporary concern. In this case, the displacement of the title alludes to the form's relocation from anthropology to visual art, from the spiritual to the political, and from the power of a deceased individual to the collective power of the revolution.